afternoon to the Distinguished Global Lecture Series. I'm Thomas Kalinowski, for those who don't know me, professor here at Ewha GSIS. And today it's my great pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Ralf Havertz, and briefly introduce him. He graduated with a PhD from Free University Berlin, same university as I did. And he started his PhD program, actually we were talking about this before, the year I left. So I graduated in 2004 and he joined the university in 2004. But he has also a very interesting career. By the way, now he is a professor, most important thing I forgot, that he is a professor at Keimyung University in the Department of International Relations, where he's teaching since 2009. And he also has a very interesting career. Did a lot of different things. Among them, he was a journalist, and he also worked at the head of the career office of the Technical University in Berlin, one of the other big universities in Berlin. And also he worked in publishing houses, and just when we met before, he also told me that he actually formed an internet startup company already in the 1990s, and this was kind of the first wave of internet startup companies. So maybe you also have questions about that. His publications, this list of publications is very, very long, and topics he has been dealing with is, among many others, the new right in Germany and in Europe, and we'll also talk about this today, the European Union, European integration process, and also recently he has been interested in international relations, also in Korean-Japanese relations, international relations in East Asia, and he's also an expert in the discourse analysis. So if you have questions what that is, then also you can ask him about that. But without further ado, please welcome with me Professor Ralf Havertz.
Yeah, thank you. So, thank you for inviting me to this special lecture, to give me the opportunity to talk about this topic here today, about right-wing populism in the European Union. And this is what I'm going to talk about. So I will try to explain what right-wing populism actually is. This will involve the ideology of right-wing populists, and of course I will give you a definition of what populism actually is. Then I'll distinguish right-wing populism from left-wing populism. We also have to distinguish right-wing populism from right-wing extremism. What is the relation between right-wing populism and market radicalism? There is a relation. We'll hear more about that later. Then I will examine the rise of right-wing populism in Europe. We will take a look at right-wing populist parties in the European Union, right-wing populist figures, people who are important as right-wing populist politicians in the European Union. We'll take a brief look at them, and I'll try to give answers on the question, why is there this rise? What are the reasons for the rise of right-wing populism? Why right now? What is happening in the European Union that strengthens right-wing politicians right now? And as a conclusion, I will try to discuss the question, what actually can be done about right-wing populism. So in my view, populism primarily has to be seen as a right-wing phenomenon. We'll talk about left-wing populism later, but it's primarily a right-wing problem that we are talking about. So what do right-wing populists do? What are the main features of these populists? They criticize the elite. They say the elite only works for their own benefit. They are only interested in gaining something and, pursuing their own interests. They pose as representatives of the people. They are the real representatives of the people, is what they claim, not the elite, not the established politicians. They only betray the people. It is us, the right-wing populists. They may not refer to themselves as right-wing populists, but anyway, they are. So it is us who represent the people, not them. And we tell you the truth. They are just liars. Yeah, this is what they very often claim. So they distinguish between them, those who are ready to say the truth, although it's difficult because everything is pitted against them, the media. Yeah, so there's also some kind of conspiracy theory involved. Yeah, the media won't allow them to talk, although there is so much media coverage of right-wing populists in the European Union. So their messages, they're often rather simple, yeah, and they're trying to evoke emotional responses with their messages. Yeah, so they reduce complexity. Simple messages is what they focus on. And their policy proposals, they are not strong. They're actually weak on concrete policy proposals. They make use of politics of fear. Yeah, they try to scare people with scenarios of many immigrants flooding in, scenarios of uprisings, scenarios of upheaval in society, and they are anti-pluralist. Yeah, so what does that mean? Their ideal is a homogeneous society, yeah, homogeneous people in a homogeneous nation. So there is not much of a difference between the people. Yeah, there is no division within the people of the country. It's one homogeneous body. It's one homogeneous nation. That's their ideal. Therefore, their nationalism can be seen as perennialist nationalism. Perennialist as opposed to modernist nationalism. So modernist form of nationalism would accept differences in regard of gender, race, yeah, minorities, that, but this is what they don't do. So, therefore, they are strong nationalists. They are also anti-immigration. Some of their positions are anti-immigration. Another position you find frequently is anti-Islamism or a critique of Islam. This is often actually nothing but anti-immigrant sentiments that they voice. So it is sometimes interchangeable. When they talk about anti-Islamism, they actually mean anti-immigration. They are Eurosceptic. Some of them are more Eurosceptic, others are less Eurosceptic. So we have to distinguish between light and strong Euroscepticism there. Light Eurosceptics, they may want to reduce the integration that we have in Europe. So they want to reverse the process of European integration to some extent. The strong Eurosceptics, they want the breakup of the European Union. They don't like this project at all, or at least they want their country to leave the European Union. Yeah, we'll hear quotes of a few right-wing populists about the European Union, then we'll get a better idea of what that means. So some of them are libertarians, they are market radicals, and market radicals, they say, well, the market will solve all the problems. The forces of the markets will take care of the problems that exist in society and in the economy. That what are the forces of the market? Yeah, there is supply and demand, and leave it to the market. Yeah, don't interfere with the market. Yeah, the government is not supposed to interfere with what's going on in the market, and the market will eventually regulate itself. Yeah, there will be a balance in the market. So, and then there are also social conservatives. Social conservatism, what is that about? They focus on family values. They are opposed against same-sex marriage. Yeah, these are two positions of social conservatives. The thing is, they may not right-wing populists may not agree on all of these positions. Usually what you will find is a mixture of positions that they would agree on. Yeah? And here is a definition by Havertz and MacDonald, who wrote a book on populism in Europe, published in 2015. They define populism, now I quote, as an ideology which pits a virtuous, homogeneous people against a set of elites and dangerous others who are together depicted as depriving or attempting to deprive the sovereign people of their rights, values, prosperity, identity, and even the voice. So I agree with this definition. I agree with Havertz and MacDonald, though I disagree with their claim that this applies not only to right-wing populists, also to left-wing populists. And where do I disagree? I think the dangerous others is what left-wing politicians usually don't focus on. Yeah, and there's a problem with this definition. It is a fitting definition for right-wing populism, but I don't think that it is a fitting definition for what leftists usually are standing for. So let's talk a little more about the difference between right-wing populism and left-wing populism. Leftists, they may display some features of populism. Yeah, they may be populist to some extent. They may reduce complexity in their speeches, for instance. They may criticize the elite. Yeah, this may happen, but this is not sufficient to call it populism. Yeah, this is not enough to call it populism. Well, the critique of the elite, it may be warranted. Yeah, the critique of the elite, there might be reasons for it. And the reduction of complexity, that is what we see in a lot of speeches of politicians. They sometimes simplify matters to get their message across. When you have very complicated issues, that is necessary sometimes in political communication. So again, that doesn't make it necessarily make it populist. So I think the critique of the elite is only populist when it is an end in itself. Yeah, it's only populist when it becomes a campaign element, and well, it may play to already existing sentiments, anti-establishment sentiments, and it may try to amplify these sentiments and make use of them. Now I would like to continue with a distinction between right-wing populism and right-wing extremism. They have something in common, but it's not the same. There's a reason why we have two terms here. There's a reason why we have to make that distinction. The main difference is right-wing populists, they see themselves as Democrats. Right-wing extremists usually don't. Yeah, right-wing extremists, they are openly anti-democratic, openly anti-egalitarian. So right-wing populists, they say we are standing for a pure form, an undiluted form of democracy. We are the real Democrats. We are representing the people. Yeah? And sometimes they even propose elements of direct democracy, such as referenda or people's initiatives. So we see where there is a difference between both, but they also have something in common. There are some features they have in common, and that is especially their focus on a homogeneous entity, a homogeneous nation, a homogeneous people. Yeah, that is what they have in common with right-wing extremists, and they often are anti-immigrant. This is also what they have. This is also what they have in common. Oh, that was the wrong button, excuse me. So their anti-immigrant views is also what they have in common. They are anti-egalitarian. So when you look closer at what right-wing populists actually are standing for, you realize, yeah, well, they may claim to be Democrats, but if you focus on creating a homogeneous entity, a homogeneous nation, then it means you are focusing on exclusion of certain groups in society, exclusion of minority, and that means they are anti-egalitarian, and there both also have something in common. Yeah, right-wing populists and right-wing extremists have something in common there. So the thing is, the line between both, it's difficult to draw that line. Yeah, it's not so easy to draw that line. It's often blurry, that line. Right-wing populists sometimes are market radicals. Yeah, so some of them are market radicals. They assume that the forces of the market, they will cure every economic and social problem. They will take care of these problems. We know them as libertarians too. So libertarians, they don't want strong involvement of the government in the market, no government regulation, leave everything to the market, so as less government as possible. And they also sometimes they distinguish achievers from those who actually are failing in their business operations or as employees. So, well, and they object to large-scale redistribution. So actually they also, to some extent, usually object to strong welfare states, yeah, welfare payments. Yeah, so don't support the weak, actually, is what right-wing populist positions also are about sometimes. So in Europe, right-wing populism is on the rise since some time, yeah, and well, I would say at least since 15 years they are on the rise. They are winning more and more seats in parliaments. Yeah, they get more and more media coverage. Yeah, there's strong movements too. So this is not just happening in parties, not just in parliaments. This is also happening on the streets. For instance, in Germany, there is this anti-Islamist Pegida movement, and there are thousands of people, sometimes tens of thousands of people that come together every Monday in an eastern German city, Dresden, and they are demonstrating against the Islamification of their country. So they see a strong threat of Islamification. There are not many people who are Muslims actually in the region where they live. Yeah, it's a very small minority. It's less than 1%, but still they're talking about the Islamification of their country. And meanwhile, they have affiliates in many other countries, in Newcastle, Britain, Great Britain even, and in some other countries they have affiliates who also meet frequently, demonstrate against the Islamification of their countries. They have parties of right-wing populists. They have won some elections, or well, they gained large shares of the votes recently. So in regional, national, as well as in European elections, they had a rather strong showing. They were rather successful in these elections. So, and some of them already have participated in national governments as coalition partners. That is true for the Lega Nord in Italy. Yeah, that is a right-wing populist party there. The Freedom Party of Austria also was a member of a coalition. In the Netherlands, the Party for Freedom was part of a coalition. And in Denmark, the People's Party for a very long time supported the government. Yeah, the government was supported by them. That doesn't mean they were part of the coalition there, but without their support, the government wouldn't have been able to, implement its politicians to make decisions. Yeah, so it was a rather weak government. Therefore, they needed the support of this party. And currently, there are some governments with the participation of right-wing parties, right-wing populist parties. So this is happening in Greece, where we have the Independence Party, in Slovakia with the Slovak National Party, and in Finland with the Finns. They participate in governments. And surprisingly, in Greece, it's Syriza, which is actually a leftist party that is in a coalition. So that is the majority party. Syriza, the leftist party, is the majority party in this coalition. And the Independence Party, ANEL, is the minority party, the junior partner in this coalition. Same is true for Slovakia. So the Slovak National Party is the junior partner. There again with the Social Democrats of that country. Again, surprising that Social Democrats and leftists obviously can cooperate with right-wing populists. Yeah, and there are two countries noteworthy in this context here. Norway as well as Switzerland both are not European Union member states, but very close regionally, geographically close, and strongly integrated with the European Union. Therefore, it's noteworthy that in both countries, the right-wing populists of this country are also participating in the government. And then we have two countries where we have national conservative governments. They are not really right-wing populists, but again, there is some overlap between their positions. They are right of center. They are not center-right parties. Yeah, they are right of center, so that is the Law and Justice Party in Poland, and in Hungary it is Fidesz. Yeah, they are standing for rather strong conservative positions. Both are right-wing parties, and well, they have something in common. They actually have much in common with right-wing populists. So, well, when we look at this evidence, we can conclude, obviously, right-wing populists are rather successful in the European Union, and they haven't been 10, 15 years ago. That means we are talking about a shift in the politics of Europe. There is something happening, something is changing in Europe, and what we see there is a shift to the right. This conclusion is also supported by more evidence when you look at national parliaments. In many national parliaments, here is a long list, right-wing populists are represented with their parties, and in some they have a large number of seats. They gained a large number of seats. Front National in France, the UKIP, United Kingdom Independence Party in the United Kingdom, the Party for Freedom in the Netherlands. In Italy, there are three parties. Yeah, there is Forza Italia, which has been described as a more moderate populist party, but still leaning to the right. Then there is the Five Star Movement, which has been founded by a comedian. In the beginning, actually, people thought that must be a joke, but it turned out it was not. Yeah, so this Mr. Beppe Grillo, he is the leader of the Five Star Movement. And then there is the actually right extremist, right populist Lega Nord. So right-wing populism is rather strong in Italy. And I think one person has some of the responsibility for that. That is certainly Mr. Silvio Berlusconi. Berlusconi and his media empire. Yeah, people are not interested, or not that much interested as they have been in politics, let's say in the 1970s in Italy anymore, because, well, they focus a lot of entertainment in TV. There is not much information and not much critical information about the government when Mr. Berlusconi was in office. So the other countries and the parties there are already mentioned before. We could add other countries to this list, Latvia, for instance, Lithuania. There are also right-wing populist parties in the parliaments. So, and they also were rather successful in the last elections to the European Parliament. Yeah, that these elections were held in May 2014 in France. Who became the strongest party? That was the Front National. So they gained the largest share of the seats. 23 of 74 French seats in the parliament were gained by the Front National, and United Kingdom Independence Party also became the strongest party in the UK. In the United Kingdom, again, a right-wing populist party gained most of the seats. Became the strongest party. 24 out of 73 British seats in the European Parliament were gained by this party. So now let's briefly look at a few of these figures. Ms. Le Pen, you may have heard about her. She is leading the Front National. She inherited, you could say, she inherited this party, the party leadership, from her father, Jean-Marie Le Pen, who is not member anymore. He has been ousted. Why? Because of his open anti-Semitism. So they try to appear more serious. So Ms. Le Pen, her positions certainly are right-wing populist, to far right. Certainly there are some far-right positions that she's taking. So she is the leader of the Front National. She is also a member of the European Parliament since some time already, since 2004. She is chairing a group there. So in the European Parliament, we have 7 different groups. Much is organized around groups in the European Parliament. Politicians do a lot together there, and they have more benefits when they form groups, when they join groups. So she is leading one of the 7 groups that exist in the European Parliament, and there are other right-wing populist groups. It's not the only group that she is sharing. So she is the chair of Europe of Nations and Freedom, the group, that is the group of the name of the group. So Europe of Nations and Freedom, that is what she's leading. And in the last presidential elections in France, she also had a rather good showing. She placed 3rd. She gained 17.9% of the votes. They have a 2-ballot system. So in France, in the presidential elections, the 2 first, they are running again in a 2nd ballot, and then they compete for the presidency. So she made the 3rd place. Therefore, she didn't make it to the 2nd round of the elections there. But I think this time it may look different, and she may be in the last round, in the 2nd round, in the 2nd ballot. She may also have a chance to become the president of France. And here are a few quotes of her which show where she's standing and what she is standing for. Here's one. The EU is deeply harmful. It is an anti-democratic monster. I want to prevent it from becoming fatter, from continuing to breathe, from grabbing everything with its paws, and from extending its tentacles into all areas of our legislation. So that's, of course, she's really working with threats. That's politics of fear, obviously. She's really trying to scare the people with the European Union. It's a monster. And another quote here about Islam. So the progressive Islamification of our country and the increase in political religious demands are calling into question the survival of our civilization. This is the end of our civilization. We are going down. That will be doomsday. So, and then Islamism is the will to impose Sharia for all as civil, political, and religious law. In reality, it's asking French people to increasingly submit themselves to the Muslim religion. So here she tries to scare French citizens with the idea that they will have to subject themselves to Sharia law, which is, of course, a huge exaggeration. Now let's take a look at Mr. Farage. I mentioned the United Kingdom Independence Party. So he is the leader of this party in Britain, and he's also chairing a group in the European Parliament. He's the chair of Europe of Freedom and Direct Democracy. That's the name of this group. Yeah, and he is member of the European Parliament since some time. He's member since 1999. So, well, and he is anti-European. He is Eurosceptic. So actually, he is the driving force behind the attempt of Britons to leave the European Union, the so-called Brexit. Yeah, so he is the main proponent of Britain leaving the European Union. And here are some quotes of Mr. Farage. Well, here the first quote published in The Sun. We know the costs of Europe. What are the benefits? What are the benefits? That says, well, there are no benefits. It implies, I don't see any benefits. It's just very costly. It's a very costly project. And in a speech held in the EU, where he addressed Mr. Herman van Rompuy, who at the time was the president of the European Council, he said this here, this is what he said. Well, I sense, though, that you are competent and capable and dangerous, and I have no doubt in your intention to be the quiet assassin of European democracy and of the European nation states. Yeah, that is of course an outrageous statement. And then the last quote here of Mr. Farage, the opening of the doors to 29 million Romanians and Bulgarians is going to become a huge issue. So who's opening the door to 29 billion people? By the way, if you add up the population of Romania and Bulgaria, it's 27 million people. Yeah, but, well, so obviously he is scaring or trying to scare the people with huge inflows of immigrants that somehow may upset the order in the country, that may compete with their jobs, and that may disturb the culture in the country. This is what's behind these quotes. Then the last person I would like to take a brief look at is Miss Beatrix von Storch. Yeah, Beatrix von Storch. She is member of the party Alternative for Germany. She certainly is a right-wing populist. She is member in the same group in the parliament, in the European Parliament, that is led by Mr. Farage, Nigel Farage, and she gained her seat in Parliament in 2014. And here's what she said. What did she say? In a Facebook post, she referred to refugees, refugees crossing the border into Germany, and she said, well, those who are crossing the borders and not paying attention to guards there saying hold or stop, they are actually attackers. And we would have to defend, we, then the Germans, we have to defend ourselves against these attackers. And then somebody on Facebook asked her, does that also mean to shoot at women and children? And she said, yes, is what she said. So that is her rather extreme position. Yeah, just crossing the border is enough to shoot somebody, and even if it is a child. Yeah, that is one of her positions. And of course, there was a huge outrage in the media, and this is very often what they want to achieve. Yeah, they want to attract attention with their outrageous commands. Yeah, and these are not single cases. This happens every other day in Europe, that a right-wing populist makes statements like these statements that I talked about. So another thing that is noteworthy here is that it's the first time in the history of the European Union and in the history of the European Parliament that so many members of the European Union are important figures in national politics. That is true for Marine Le Pen, who is heading this party on national level. That is true for Mr. Farage, who's heading UKIP in Britain. Ms. von Storch, she is deputy head of her party in Germany. So that is quite an interesting development, I think, that we have these figures who are members of the European Parliament, who are also important in national politics. That was different before. Sometimes in the past 10, 20 years ago, actually being a member of the European Parliament, that sometimes was seen as kind of severance payment for long-standing national politicians who actually were somehow disturbing national politics, and those who were in charge were trying to get somehow rid of them. So, but you have to take care of your party fellows. So some of them got seats in the European Parliament as kinds of severance payment, and everybody was happy not to see them anymore on a national level. Yeah, that we can't generalize that, of course, but that was a tendency. So they didn't have much impact on national politics, but obviously this has changed. And ironically, those who are important in national politics and at the same time members of the European Parliament, they are anti-European. Yeah, they are strongly Eurosceptic. I think that is the sad thing. Yeah, it would be great to have, as somebody who is in favor of this project of the European Union, it would be wonderful, it would be great to have people that are important in national politics as well as on European level that would make the cooperation between both levels better and more smoothly. So I spoke about few of these groups in the EP. Yeah, in the EP there are 4 groups with the involvement of right-wing parties, right-wing populists to some extent. There is a very large group that is the group of the European People's Party. Most parties there, or most members of that group, they are Christian Democrats, they are center-right, but there are 2 parties, Fidesz from Hungary and Forza Italia from Italy, in this group, who have right-wing populist tendencies, and there might be right-wing populist elements in these parties. Then there's the European conservatives and reformists. So there we have center-right, right-wing as well as right-wing populist members. 73 members of parliament joined this group. And then we have 2 very extreme formations, very extreme groups. So when we go down this slide here, the further we go down, the more extreme it gets. So Europe of Freedom and Direct Democracy, that is a group of 46 members of parliament. There you have many right-wing populists and, well, also far-right leaning politicians, and extremist right-wing politicians is what you have in the last group, led by Ms. Le Pen. Yes, 39 MEPs are in this group. So that is Europe of Nations and Freedom. This is the name of this group. Let's take a brief look at each of these groups. So who is member, or which parties are primarily represented there? It is in this group, it is Christian Democrats, it's center-right parties primarily, but as I said, there is Fidesz and there's also Forza Italia in this group, and they have a populist leaning at least, yeah, although they have been described as moderate populists, moderate right-wing populists. Then there is the European conservatives and reformists group. So here we have center-right and right-wing populists together in this group. So we have the Conservative Party, that is the party of Prime Minister David Cameron in Britain. The Conservative Party together with right-wing populists. Law and Justice is a national conservative party from Poland, but then there's the Alliance for Progress and Renewal. This is a split-off of a German party, Alternative for Germany. I talked about Ms. von Storch, She is a member of the Alternative for Germany, and the Alliance for Progress and Renewal split up. So they became too extreme for the members of this alliance, the Alternative for Germany, but they still are right-wing populists, and they are primarily liberal, economic liberals, you could say. So they actually also stand for this position of market radicalism, of libertarianism. Some of them are strong proponents of as less government interference in the market as possible. And then we have two other right-wing populist parties, clearly right-wing populist parties in this group. That's the Danish People's Party as well as the National Alliance from Latvia. Well, and then we have this group here, so the UKIP, United Kingdom Independence Party. I spoke about Mr. Farage already. The Five Star Movement, the Alternative for Germany. It's only one member here, so they gained, I think, 7 seats in the last elections, but then they split up, and there's one member of the Alternative for Germany here in this group. And there are also the Sweden Democrats when talking about the Alternative for Germany. There's another member here, so they don't have to be in the same group. They can pick a group, actually. They're free to do that, obviously. So, and here, this is the most extreme group. We have the Front National, the Freedom Party from the Netherlands, the Kongres Nowej Prawicy from Poland, Lega Nord, the Freedom Party of Austria, the Vlaams Belang, and then Alternative for Germany, just one member from the Alternative for Germany in this group. So, what are the reasons for right-wing populism in Germany? Why do we have this phenomenon in Germany right now? I think one primary reason is the loss of trust. It can be attributed to the loss of trust among the people, among European citizens, in their established parties, in established politicians, to be able to deal with the problems that are pressing currently. Yeah, so, and this is what the European Eurobarometer polls show, that there is a huge loss of trust. Yeah, not just in European institutions, not just in the European Union, but also in national governments. And I think this is important. One actually is connected to the others. So it's not just the European Union, which they have their doubts about, which people have their doubts about. It's also national governments, which they are concerned with. So, well, and this is what the Eurobarometer says. The support of the membership in the European Union in most countries and in most groups of the society has strongly decreased, and people really don't see the benefits anymore of European Union membership. Yeah, and actually that mirrors what Mr. Farage said. Where are the benefits? Yeah, many people don't see that anymore, that it is beneficial for them to be a citizen of the European Union. So, as I said, the support in most areas, in most regions of the European Union has gone down. We see that here. Yeah, this is where it's currently, and in many regions it has gone down. Only the creditor countries here in blue, the blue line, there is some stability in their view on the European Union and on European Union membership. So in the creditor countries of the Eurozone, there is still some support of EU membership, but it has decreased recently everywhere else, as you can see here in this figure. Let's take a look at another figure, and this is about the benefit of EU membership. And as I said, people throughout the EU have increasing doubts about the benefit of EU membership. Yeah, so we also see falling graphs here almost everywhere. Again, an exception are the creditors in the EU. So trust in the EU and in national governments has decreased, and that's primarily true for the debtor countries. Surprise, yeah, surprise, surprise. The debtor countries don't believe strongly in the European Union, don't trust in the European Union, and also don't trust that strongly in their national governments anymore. So that's what the brownish line is about, yeah. Trust in national governments is even lower, and was for some time on both sides, creditor countries as well as debtor countries, it was much lower than for the EU, which I think is surprising. Yeah, so this has something to do with each other. Look at what these graphs look like. Yeah, decreasing trust in EU institutions, and at the same time a similar decrease in the trust in national governments is what we see here. And well, when you look at specific social groups, for instance by educational level, then you see a huge general decrease. Yeah, and the decrease is stronger for those who have not that good an education. So low levels, people with a low level of education, they tend to trust in the European Union even less than those people who have higher degrees, yeah, who have better education. A similar picture when we look at the occupational level. So those with what that could be called skilled labor trust more in the European Union than those who could be called unskilled labor. But still, yeah, we see a general decline in the trust here when we look at these two groups. So there are many economic reasons for the rise of right-wing populism. Yeah, it can be seen as a reaction to the crisis that occurred recently, the economic crisis. There was the Great Recession. There still is the Euro crisis. Yeah, there have been austerity measures that have been imposed on many countries, especially Greece, but it's not just about Greece, it's many other countries in the European Union. Social welfare cuts happened everywhere throughout the European Union. Yeah, so in many countries, social welfare cuts decreased the payments or resulted in a decrease of the payments of social welfare for the people. And this, of course, is what people realize and what they feel in their wallets. Yeah. Globalization generally can be seen as a reason. So there are those who win in this process of globalization, and there are those who lose in this process of globalization. And it's primarily the losers who are susceptible to right-wing populist propaganda. Then there is the refugee crisis. Yeah, the refugee crisis has been exploited by right-wing populists. Yeah, the inflow of large numbers of immigrants has been described as a threat by many of them. And there, now a quote of Alexander Gauland, who is another deputy chair of the Alternative for Germany. He said, actually, this crisis, this is like a present, like a gift to us. Yeah, this is great that we have this crisis because, well, we can use it. We can use it for our political purposes. So he openly said, great to have this crisis because we can use it and we can make politics with it. So, well, and again, there is this general feeling that established parties, established politicians, they can't handle these crises. They can't deal with it. They don't have any solution for it. But right-wing populists, they claim they have the solutions. They claim they know what to do about it. Yeah, so they promise to solve these problems, and they do this in a language that lacks complexity. Yeah, they promise easy solutions, solutions that sound rather simple, and therefore it's easy to receive these messages also for the citizens. And well, for some people it may be appealing because they feel taken seriously now. Yeah, somebody is there who is listening to us, who is listening to the people. Somebody is there who takes care of our demands. Yeah, well, the elite, the established parties are not listening anymore, and that is the sense throughout many areas of the European Union. So, and well, what they do is they play, right-wing populists, they play to existing prejudices. They try to amplify the prejudices that already exist, and then they exploit them. Yeah. So what I think what right-wing populists are, how I see them as political entrepreneurs who exploit the insecurities of the citizenry in times of crisis. Yeah, it's a good time for these people. It's a good time for right-wing populists because there are so many crises, and of course people get insecure in times of crisis, and that is what they make use of. Yeah, that's what they exploit. That's what they capitalize on. So, well, crises have become the new normal. Yeah, surely there will be the next economic crisis right at our front door. Yeah, there is no doubt about that. We have seen many economic crises recently, and with globalization, it seems to be so that the global economy becomes more vulnerable to crisis. So, therefore, right-wing populists will probably be influential for some time in the future. In my conclusion, I would like to give answers to the question, what can be done about right-wing populism? I spoke about apathy, political apathy, before. So one way to counteract this tendency is an educational effort. Yeah, so people must learn how the European Union works. They must learn about the institutions, the powers, the functions of the European Union. A debate must be launched about the democratic deficits of the European Union. It should be a constructive debate. Yeah, there is a debate already going on, and well, probably this debate should become stronger. What we need is more transparency of the decision-making processes in the European Union. We need more democratic decision-making, so we need more involvement of the people actually in decision-making. Yeah, and well, the principle of subsidiarity must be strengthened. What is that principle about? You don't do things on European level if you can do them on regional level or on national level. So they should be left on regional or on national level if you can decide about them there. If you can do it there, why do it on the upper level? So this principle also obviously has to be strengthened. So, well, people who are in office right now, yeah, some politicians, they were tempted to adopt the language of the right-wing populists. For instance, the governor of Bavaria in Germany, he sounded like a right-wing populist for some time during the refugee crisis. So they are tempted to become populists themselves, and they have to fight this temptation, I think. Yeah, they must defend democratic principles. They must stand for democratic principles. That is an absolute necessary. What also is needed is highlighting the benefits of the membership in the European Union. There have been many benefits, and there still are. Prosperity in many regions, yeah, and even the regions that have economic problems right now. I'm not talking about Greece, but Spain and Portugal, they benefited to some extent, and we've seen some economic growth over a longer period of time there. So this has to be highlighted, that there have been huge benefits for the vast majority of the people in the European Union, of European Union membership. And I think this has not been communicated good or well. It could be communicated much better in the future that there are these benefits. So, and well, there still is hope. Yeah, I talked about the Eurobarometer before, and I said that people have lost trust in EU institutions and in their national governments, but they still believe in Europe. They still want, the vast majority of the people still wants European integration. And this seems a little contradictory, but well, they want another form of integration, and they want it to be organized in a different way, obviously. So, but again, there's still hope. Yeah, there's still hope that the project of the European Union may succeed, that cooperation among European countries is possible. And well, as already said, right-wing populism is what we will be dealing with for some time in the future. It will stay influential for the foreseeable future. So that's about everything I wanted to tell you about right-wing populism in Europe. Thank you for listening and for your attention. And well, if you have any questions.